Nice. And yeah, that'll be fun. And Akash, welcome to class. How's it going?
Doing good.
Okay, good to hear. Um, Akash, I don't think I've had you in class before. Where are you from?
I'm from Bangladesh.
Okay, nice. And what are some things that you like to do? What do you do for fun?
Right now, nothing special.
Okay, okay, reasonable. Um, I guess like to enjoy yourself, do you like to read, or do you like to watch movies or television or play sports? I like just some things that you generally like.
Okay, mostly I watch movies, and like sometimes I go with my friends, play basketball, those sort of
Okay,
things.
okay, nice. That sounds good. Um, and I'm thinking we can read an essay. It's graduation address. So it's a good one. I like this one. So hopefully you guys will like it as well. Sorry about not being a story, but let's have the first one, and let's have Anna Carolina. Can you read the title until this part?
This is water. David Foster Wallace. There are these there are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then event, event, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?" If at this moment you're worried that I plan to present myself here as the wise old fish explaining what water is to you, younger fish, please don't be.
Good. Questions here. Okay. Okay. And let's have Julieta. Can you read the next part?
Yes, from okay. I'm not the wise old fish. The immediate point of the fish story is that the most obvious, ubiquitous, important real realities are often the ones that are the hardest to see and talk about. Started at an English sentence, of course, this is just a banal platitude. But the fact is that in the day-to-day trenches of adult existence, banal platitudes can have life or death importance. That may sound like hyperbole or abstract nonsense. Hmm. Hmm. I?
Just a huge.
Okay. A huge percentage of the stuff that I tend to be automatically certain of is, it turns out, totally wrong and deluded.
Okay. Let's look at the immediate. Immediate.
Immediate,
The ubiquitous. Ubiquitous.
ubiquitous,
Ubiquitous.
ubiquitous, ubiquitous. I don't know.
Ubiquitous. Alright. Ubiquitous. Ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous,
Yeah, sorry, that was my fault. Ubiquitous. Realities.
realities,
Banal. Banal.
banal,
hmm Percentage. Percentage.
percentage,
Okay. And stated.
stated,
Perfect. All right, so banal platitude, which I'm sure that's gonna pose a problem, is like something that is like really overused, and because it is so overused, does not have any meaning. So something that is banal is just overused without meaning, and a platitude is something that is overused without meaning. So we're just describing a noun using an adjective that's the same thing. So a banal platitude is just something that is overused that doesn't have any meaning. Okay, and yeah, so pretty much just saying like the most obvious important realities are the ones that are the hardest to see and talk about. David, welcome to class. How's it going, David?
Hi Joshua, good to see you again.
Hey, good to see you too.
How is your internet?
It's good. Actually, starting the class was not my internet. That was the Verbling site. It like had kicked me out, and so every time I started the class, I was just like sitting here waiting for you guys, and I was wondering why you weren't coming in, and it was because it didn't start the Verbling application. So when I realized that, I cried for a few moments and then started again. Okay, and Akash, can you read the next? Yes.
I don't know the meaning of ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous is
Trenches.
okay. Ubiquitous is like throughout everything. It is like everywhere. So something that is ubiquitous is in all places. Ubi is all. I think it's Greek. I'm almost sure it's Greek. All places is ubiquitous. So it's in everything about life. And entrenched is like really dug in, like it's hard to move or replace. The trenches, the trenches of adult existence, like the things that you do every day. So yeah, your normal path, because like you do it all the time. It's like you've dug a trench into like your actions, and so those are like the places where you fight, the places where you always are. Does that make sense? So trench is like a hole in the ground almost. It's like a really long hole in the ground. It's where World War I was fought. But yeah, just like your nooks, the places where you always are, in the places where you fight. Hopefully that makes sense. Akash, what about the next part?
Here is one example. That's where I'm starting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here is one example of the utter wrongness of something I tend to be automatically sure of. Everything in my own immediate experience supports my deep belief that I am the absolute center of the universe, the realist, most vivid and important person in existence. We rarely talk about this sort of natural, basic self-centeredness because it's so socially repulsive, but it's pretty much the same for all of us, deep down. It's our default setting, hardwired into our boards at birth.
Yeah. We rarely.
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 Okay.
And then socially. Socially. Good. So pretty much he's just saying that everybody is very self-centered. Any questions here?
Joshua, what does order?
But what was the question? Sorry. Our boards?
That's fine. First.
Okay, it's like the things that make us up. So if you're a ship that is going through life, your boards are like the wooden. It's like part of you, I would say. Not a very common phrase, by the way. Any other questions? What was your question, David?
Yeah, utter in the first line.
Utter, like complete. Or absolute.
Okay.
Okay. And Ali, welcome to class. How's it going?
Yeah, hello.
Hey, welcome to class.
Yeah.
So we're reading an address to some students. So it's a graduation commencement speech. And so Not quite a short story, but close enough. And so, Ali, can you read the next little paragraph?
From Think About It?
Yeah, think about it.
Yeah, think about it. There is no experience you have had that you were not at the absolute center of the world as you experience. It is right there in front of you or behind you, to the left or right of you, on your TV, in your monitor, or whatever. Other people's thoughts and feelings have to be communicated to you somehow. But your own, your also immediate, urgent, real. You get the idea, but please don't worry that I'm getting ready to preach to you about compensation, co- co- compensation, or other directions, or the so-called virtue,
Okay. Compassion.
compassion,
Other directedness.
other directions.
Yeah. Okay. So he's saying you're never the absolute center of an experience. The world is always coming to you from different spots. Oh man. Sorry, hold on. And yeah, other people's feelings and emotions and thoughts are always connected to you, even though your own thoughts and feelings are so much closer. But he's saying he's not going to say that he's going to try to teach you those virtues, like that it's important to think of others. All right, good. Any questions about any words here?
Yeah, compassion. Oh,
Compassion? So it's
yeah.
like feeling for others. It's like empathy almost.
I
So
have a
when you
question.
see, yeah, what's your question?
So my question is, like, what is this about? Who is writing this to who?
Okay, so this is a college commencement speech. So it's a writer
Hmm.
who is writing or who is talking to people who recently graduated from college.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Good
Okay.
question. And Anna Carolina, can you read the next part?
This is not a matter of virtue. It's a matter of my choosing to do the work of somehow altering or getting free of my natural, hardwired default setting, which is to be deeply and literally centered, and to see and interpret everything through this lens of self. People who can adjust their natural default setting this way are often described as being well adjusted, which I suggest to you is not an accidental term. Given the tr- tr- triumphal academic setting here, an obvious question is how much of this work of adjusting our default setting involves actual knowledge or intellect.
Okay, really good. Questions here?
I don't get this paragraph.
It's tricky. So what he's talking about before, it's like this idea of understanding others and not being so self-centered. And he's saying that people who are not self-centered have become well-adjusted. So they have, like, they can see things through other people's eyes. They're not seeing everything through the lens of themselves. Um, and so people who do that well, who can understand other people, understand the world not through themselves, are called well-adjusted. And so he's saying that the term well-adjusted, which is really common in English, is not accidental. It's actually talking about what he's talking about. And he's saying, you guys are all smart here. And he's wondering if it's has to do with intellect actually, or if it's just knowledge or intellect, or if it's just something that happens, or something emotional maybe. And let's have Julieta. Can you read the next part?
This question gets tricky. Probably the most dangerous thing about college education, at least in my own case, is that it enables my tendency to over-intellectualize stuff, to get lost in abstract arguments inside my head instead of simply paying attention to what's going on right in front of me. That's what I was thinking. Paying attention to what is going on inside me. As I'm sure you guys know by now, it is extremely difficult to stay alert and attentive instead of getting hypnotized by the constant monologue inside your own head.
Yeah, intellectualize.
Intellectualize.
Good. Questions? Okay. And David, can you read the next part?
I think David is gone.
Did David leave? Oh no. Akash, yeah, sorry. Akash, can you read the next part?
20 years after my own graduation, I have come gradually to understand that the liberal arts college about teaching you how to think is actually shorthand for a much deeper, more serious idea. Learning how to think really means learning how to exercise some control over how and what you think. It means being conscious and aware enough to choose what you pay attention to and to choose how you construct meaning from experience. Because if you cannot exercise this kind of choice in adult life, you'll you'll be totally hosed.
Yeah, and host is in trouble. You'll be in a bad situation. And so this is slang, totally hosed. It's like totally in trouble, I
Yeah,
guess.
first time heard that word. So hosed is in trouble.
Yeah, it's slang. It's I don't know how to say it politely. It's like not a polite slang. You'll be like, yeah, you'll be in trouble. You'll be in a bad situation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's impolite. A hose is like something that you use to water plants. It's a long thing that gets things wet. Um, okay. And can you repeat cliche? Cliche.
Cliche.
Okay. And my voice is bad. Hold on 1 second, guys.
Cliche. Cliche.
Good. Good. And can you guys hear me now? Does it
Yes.
sound a
Yes,
little bit better?
better.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I think I need to get new headphones soon. Yeah, cliche. And yeah, does anybody have any other questions here?
Yes. Shorthand is simple explanation. A
Yeah.
simpler. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So yeah, I have a question. So what is
Mm-hmm.
like I have come gradually to understand that the liberal arts cliche. What does that mean?
So a cliche is like a really common idea, or it's something that is repeated too frequently, so it like, yeah, it becomes something that is not meaningless, but just oversaid. And so this idea of, teaching you how to think is it's a really common cliche when you're learning liberal arts. So if you're learning history or English or literature or things like that, they're like, oh, we're teaching you how to think. We're not teaching you something
Oh,
specific. And he's saying the idea is it's more complicated. It's learning how to think and it's like controlling what you think. And so he's saying it's not as much of a cliche. It's just, it's become overused. But it really means something else, maybe, is what he's saying.
Okay.
Okay. And Ali, can you read the next part?
Yeah, okay. Think of the old cliche about the mind being an excellent servant, but a terrible master. This like a mini cliche, so lame and existing on the surface, actually expresses a great and terrible truth. It is not the least bit coincident that adults who commit suicide with fi- uh, firearms almost almost always shoot themselves in the head. And the truth is, most of these suicides are actually dead long before they pull the trigger. And I submit that this is what the real noble value of your liberal arts education is supposed to be about.
Okay. And we'll pause there. Suicide?
Suicide,
Suicide.
suicide,
Coincidental?
coincidental,
Coincidental?
coincidental,
Coincidental. And unexciting.
unexciting, yeah, yeah.
Unexciting.
Unexciting.
Okay. Lame is like weak, not very strong, just boring kind of. Noble, it's like serious, the serious value. Um, so he's saying no bullshit is what it stands for. So just serious. And let's finish this idea, and then we can kind of talk about that. Anna Carolina, can you read the next part?
Yes. How to keep from going through your comfortable, prosperous, respectable adult life dead, unconscious, a slave to your head and to your natural default setting of being uniquely, completely, entirely alone, day in and day out. That may sound like a hyperbole or abstract nonsense. So let's get concrete. The plain fact that you graduating seniors do not yet have
Sorry.
any clue what day in day out really means. I, okay. There happen to be whole large parts of adult American life that nobody talks about in commencement speeches. One such part involves boredom, routine, and pretty no, and petty. Ah, my gosh, petty frustration,
Petty.
petty
Hmm?
frustration,
Petty frustration. Abstract.
abstract,
Hyperbole.
hyperbole, hyperbole,
Comfortable. Good.
comfortable.
Questions here?
Yes. Um, hold on. Hmm. I had a question. Commencement.
A commencement speech is again what we're talking about is a speech that somebody gives to like college or university students when they are graduating. It is like commencing their real lives.
And what about that may sound like hyperbole. What is that?
Exaggeration. Hyperbole is
Oh,
exaggeration.
exaggeration. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. let's go on. David, can you read the next part?
Yeah, sure. The parents and older folks here will know all too well what I am talking about. By way of example, let's say it's an average day and you get up in the morning, go to your challenging job, and you work hard for 9 or 10 hours, and at the end of the day you are tired, and you are stressed out, and all you want is to go home and have a good supper and maybe unwind for a couple of hours, and then hit the rack early because you have to get up the next day and do it all again.
Okay. Let's look at supper.
Supper is food, yeah?
Dinner. Yeah, supper is dinner.
Dinner. Right. Supper.
Then stressed.
Then stress.
Stressed.
Stressed.
Good.
Okay.
Questions?
Rack.
So hit the rack.
Is like go to sleep.
Yeah, hit the hay. Go to bed.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No more question.
Okay. And yeah, this is he goes on for extended periods of time. So Julieta, can you read the next part?
But then you remember there is no food at home. You haven't had time to shop this week because of your challenging job. And so now, after work, you have to get in your car and drive to the supermarket. It's the end of the workday, and the traffic's very
Sorry. Very bad.
longer than it should. And when you finally get there, the supermarket is very crowded because, of course, it's the time of day when all of the other people with jobs also try to squeeze in some grocery shopping. And the stores, hideously, fluorescently lit and infused with soul-killing music or corporate pop, and it's pretty much the last place you want to be, but you can't just get in and quickly out.
Yeah. Hideously.
Hideously.
Fluorescently.
Fluorescently.
Fluorescently. Questions?
Hideously.
It's like disgustingly. Like really badly. Something that's hideous is really ugly.
Loathsome.
Pardon?
Is it a synonym of loathsome? Loathsome.
Yeah. Hideous is more like ugly. Something that is hideous is ugly.
What about fluorescently?
Fluorescently. A fluorescent light is like that bright white light.
Oh,
Yeah. Is a fluorescent light. So it's lit with those types of lights. This is just kind of an unpleasant lighting. Any other questions?
Infused with soul-killing music or corporate pop.
So what they play in supermarkets is like that, just like terrible music that it's just like. Yeah. So I don't know why he says music. Probably like a 90s term. Bad music, but corporate pop music, like just bad music. Any other questions? Pardon?
One Direction and all of this group.
Yeah,
Groups.
I would say. And yeah, and I think we're good. So just nobody wants to be at the supermarket after a long day. I guess let's have. This is going to be a long one too. But let's have Akash. Can you read the next part?
You have to wander all over the huge, overlit stores crowded as hell to find the stuff you want. And you have to maneuver your junky cart through all those other tired, hurried people with carts. And of course, there are also the glacially slow old people and the spacey people and the ADHD kids who all block the aisle, and you have to grit your teeth and try to be polite as you ask them to let you buy. And eventually, finally, you get all your supper supplies, except now it turns out that there aren't enough checkout lanes open even though it's the end of the day rush. So the checkout line is incredibly long, which is stupid and infuriating. But you can't take your furry out on the frantic lady working the register.
Okay, let's look at aisles.
Aisles.
Yeah, aisles.
Crowded aisle.
And glacially.
Glacially.
hmm And infuriating. Infuriating.
Infuriating.
And fury.
Fury. Fury.
Questions.
Great.
One. What was the question? Sorry.
A grit. You have to grit your teeth.
Oh, grit. Grit. Not great. Grit.
Right.
Right?
So it's when you like grind your teeth together because you're angry. You're like, oh, please
Grit?
let me through. Grit. Grit.
Grit.
Grit. So it's a short I sound.
Grit.
Yeah. Grit. So imagine you're saying it, only you add a grit. Grit. So yeah, you're like grinding your teeth together because you're angry. And so yeah, this is again supposed to be like the everyman who starts working after college. And yeah, I think that was good. Really well done. Ali, can you read the next part?
Yeah, sure. Anyway, you will finally get to the checkout line front and pay for your food, and wait to get your check or card authenticated by a machine, and then get told to have a nice day in a voice that is the absolute voice of death. Then you have to take your crappy uh, flimsy plastic bag of groceries in your cart through the crowded, bumpy, literally parking lot and try to load the bags in your car in such a way that everything doesn't fall out of the bags and roll around in the trunk of the way home. And then you have to drive all the way home through slow, heavy, sub-intensive rush hour traffic, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, it's more of an etc. etc.
Yeah, etc. But why when we yeah, it's etc. or something like that or ex.
That's just people who don't know how to pronounce etc. It's Latin, so it comes from Latin. It's two words.
Yeah.
It's et and cetera, and et means and cetera means also, and so on. So and so on, etc., etc. People who say etc. just it's a mispronunciation. So it is et.
Okay.
SUV. Can you repeat SUV?
SAV.
SUV. Good. I think that was good. Creepy, flimsy plastic bags.
Yeah, it's the plastic or that when you tags into when you put it in your grocery.
Yeah, just the grocery bags. Flimsy is like weak or like not strong, and creepy is like they're just like a weird material. Anyway, so he's just again talking about kind of the same old stuff. And let's have Anna Carolina. Can you read the next part?
The point is that bad, frustrating crap like this is exactly where the work of choosing comes in. Because the traffic jam and crowded aisles and long checkout lines give me time to think, and if I don't make a conscious decision about how to think and what to pay attention to, I'm going to be pissed and miserable every time I have to food shop, because my natural default setting is the certainty that situations like this are really all about me, about my hungriness and my fatigue and my desire to just get home. For then
Sorry, no.
it's going to seem for all the world like everybody else is just in my way. And who are all these people in my way?
Nice. Petty.
Petty.
Yeah, it's like small.
Yes, I know
Not
the meaning.
important. Okay. Any other questions here? Okay. David, can you read the next part?
Sure.
Wow.
And look at how repulsive most of them are, and how stupid and cow-like and dead-eyed and non-human they seem here in the checkout line. Or at how annoying and rude it is that people are talking loudly on cell phones in the middle of the line. And look at how deeply unfair this is. I've worked really hard all day and I'm starved and tired, and I can't even get home to eat and unwind because all of these stupid good darn people.
Darn.
Darn. Uh, or, of course, if I am in a more socially conscious form of my default setting. What does default setting mean?
Like the default setting of being selfish and understanding things through the lens of yourself is what he has defined as a default setting. So it's back at the beginning, is like this idea of, well, adjusting your default setting is to be hardwired and self-centered. Does that make sense?
Okay, I get it.
Okay. Okay. You can go to SUVs. David, can you read until SUVs?
Oh, sure. Okay, I was in what part? Or, of course, if I am in more social conscious form of my default setting, I can spend time in the end of the day traffic jam being angry and disgusted at all the huge, stupid, lane-blocking SUVs.
Julieta, can you pick up where we left off?
And Hummer and the V12 pickup trucks. Oops.
Sorry. There you go.
Pickup trucks burning their waste fuel, selfish 40-gallon tanks of gas. And I can dwell on the fact that the patriotic or religious bumper stickers always seems to be on the biggest, most disgustingly selfish vehicles driven by the ugliest, most inconsiderate and aggressive drivers who are usually talking on cell phones and they cut people off in order to get just 20 stupid feet ahead in the traffic jam. And I can think about how our children's children will despise us for wasting all the future's fuel and probably screwing up the climate, and how spoiled and stupid and disgusting we all are, and how it all just sucks, and so on and so forth.
Good. Driven. Driven.
Driven.
Okay. And so, yeah, like I just told David, the default setting is the setting of being selfish and like, I don't know, self-centered. So the hardwired default setting, which is to be deeply and literally self-centered and to see everything and interpret everything through this lens of self. So like seeing everything as it relates to you. So imagining that you are the center of the world is the default setting that he's talking about. Okay, so yeah, again, he's just talking about the misery of and boringness and just grossness of everyday life to some extent. Akash, welcome back. Can you read the next part?
Thinking this way is my natural default setting. It's the unconscious way that I experience.
Starting with look.
I will start with the look. Look, if I choose to think this way, fine. Lots of us do. Except that thinking this way tends to be so easy and automatic, it doesn't have to be a choice. Thinking this way is my natural default setting. It's the automatic, unconscious way that I experience the boring, frustrating, crowded parts of adult life when I'm operating on the automatic, unconscious belief that I am the center of the world and that my immediate needs and feelings are what should determine the world's priorities. The thing is that there are obvious different ways to think about these kinds of situations.
Okay, nice. Boring.
Boring.
Boring. And there are obviously.
Obviously.
Okay. Anna Carolina, did you catch when I was just describing default setting, or do you need it described again?
It means selfish.
Yeah. So
a selfish way, a self-centered way.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Your default setting is to see the world, imagining that you are the center of the world. You are the thing that matters.
Or does it also means like default setting means like, you know, just thinking on your own way, not others' perspective?
Yeah, kind of. The easiest way of doing something. The easiest way of thinking about it. So I guess the default setting would be thinking of all of this idea of going to the grocery store like he is doing it here. So wandering through it, being frustrated with other people, wanting to get home, being hungry. All of those things, like looking at Hummers and other people driving badly and disgustingly and how humans are just gross. That's, again, what he's describing as a default setting. Ali, can you read the next part?
Yeah. In this traffic. In this traffic, all these vehicles stuck and idling in my way. It's impossible that some of these people in CUVs have been in horrible auto accident in the past and now find driving so traumatic that their beast has all but ordered them to get a huge heavy CUV so they can feel safe enough to file drive, or that Hummer that just cut me off is maybe being driven by a father whose little child is hurt or sick in the seat next to him, and he's trying to rush to the hospital, and he's way bigger more legitimate, Harry, and I am. It's actually I who am in his way.
Legitimate.
Legitimate?
Yeah, legitimate Harry than I am. The I who am in his way. Okay. And traumatic? Traumatic?
Traumatic?
Hmm. Okay, so again, different way of thinking. Anna Carolina, can you read the next paragraph?
Or I can choose to force myself to consider the likelihood that everyone else in the supermarket checkout line is just as bored and frustrated as I am, and that some of these people probably have much harder, more tedious and painful lives than I do overall. Again, please don't think that I'm giving you moral advice or that I'm saying you're supposed to think this way or that anyone expects you to just automatically do it because it's hard. It takes real and mental effort. And if you're like me, some days you won't be able to do it or you just flat out want to want to flat out.
Like, just, the truth is, like, flat out, you just flat out won't want to. I mean, flat out is, again, it's like redundant. You're saying you just won't want to. At all. Like, flat out is like kind of like adding at all at the end. Pretty much the same meaning. It's just, adding. Okay. That sounded good though.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Likelihood, what does mean?
The likelihood. Like the probability. The probability is the likelihood. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can I use the flat out always instead
Yeah.
of at all?
Instead of what?
At
Yeah,
all.
pretty much. So, yeah, he just flat out failed. It's like he completely failed. So it's not always at all. In this case, it's like at all. Yeah, it's like completely or utterly in that sort of sense. It's a little bit tricky. So yeah, he flat out failed would be a good sentence. David, can you read the next part?
Okay. But most days, if you are aware enough to give yourself a choice, you can choose to look differently at this fact. That I, or Matley, who just
Sorry,
scream, okay, who just
overmade.
scream, overmade lady, who just screamed at her little child in the checkout line. Maybe she's not usually like this. Maybe she's been up 3 straight nights holding the hand of her husband, who is dying of bone cancer, or maybe this very lady is the low-wage clerk at the motor vehicles depot, who just yesterday helped your spouse resolve a nightmarish red tape problem through some small act of bureaucratic kindness. Of course, none of this is likely, but it is also not impossible. It just depends on what you want to consider.
Good. And nicely done. Low wage. Low wage.
Low wage, what does is a low wage?
Somebody who's paid a very small amount of money. I think the motor vehicles department is probably the worst place that I can imagine working.
Okay.
Just everybody is always
The
miserable
pay
there.
is really what?
Yeah, the pay is bad, and the motor vehicles department is just not a good place to be. Red tape,
Red tape.
bureaucratic.
Bureaucratic.
Okay, good. And Julieta, can you read the next part?
If you are automatically sure that you know what reality is and who and what is really important, if you want to operate on your default setting, then you, like me, will not consider possibilities that aren't pointless and annoying. But if you've really learned how to think, how to pay attention, know you have other options. It will actually be within your power and experience a crowded, loud, slow, consumer health type situation as not only meaningful but sacred, on fire with the same force that lit the stars, compassion, love, and subsurface unity
Mm-hmm.
of all things. Unity
Yeah,
or unity?
the subsurface unity of all things.
Unity of all things.
Okay. Okay, and let's have Alec. Oh, Akash, can you read the next part?
Not that, not that mystical stuff's necessarily true. The only thing that's capital T true is that you get to decide how you're going to try to say it. You get to concisely decide what has meaning and what does not. You get to decide what to worship, because here's something else that's true. In the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there is actually no such thing as atheism. There is no such thing as not to worshipping. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship. And an outstanding reason for choosing some sort of god or spiritual type thing to worship, be it Jesse or Allah, be it Yahweh or the Wiccan Mother Goddess or the Four Noble Truths or some infrangible set of ethical principles, is that pretty much anything else you worship will eat you alive.
Good. Yeah, so that's good. Frangible is like something that can't be broken. So something that is unfrangible is something that can't be broken. Like this idea of God, it's like impossible to disprove. Anything like this is impossible to disprove, and therefore it is infrangible. It is not a very common word. I would probably recommend you don't ever use infrangible because nobody will understand what you're talking about.
Okay.
But yeah. Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, worship.
Oh, worship is like praise. This idea of like having faith in something.
Praise.
Yeah. So if you worship something, it's like you believe in something that is greater than yourself, and you could worship consumer culture, or you could worship like consumerism. It's like just believing in it completely.
Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be God in it, Carolina. You can worship other things. Like somebody can worship literature, or somebody could worship, I don't know, like a director or something, a movie star. So it's just like adoring something. Can you repeat atheism? Sorry, Akash. Atheism
Atheism.
and consciously.
Consciously.
And I don't have anything else to do, so let's keep going. And Carolina, can you read the next part?
If you worship money and things, if they are where you tap real meaning in life, sorry, Then we will never have enough. Never feel we have enough. It's the truth. Worship your own body and beauty and sexual allure, and you will always feel ugly. And when time and age start showing, you will die a million deaths before they finally plant you. On one level, we all know this stuff already. It's been codified as myths, proverbs, cliches, or, ah,
Bromides.
bromides, epigrams, parables, the skeleton of every great story. The trick is keeping the truth up front in daily consciousness.
Uh-huh. Parables.
Parables.
Hmm?
Parables.
Parables. Yeah.
Parables.
Bromide is something that keeps you calm. It's also like a saying or proverb, pretty much the same thing. It's like a saying or proverb that's not really helpful. Again, kind of like a cliche proverb. Hopefully nobody has any questions other than this. So let's keep going. If you really have a question, ask. But Kenyon College, it's actually online. You can listen to him say it. And David, can you read the next part?
Okay. Starting from worship power.
Yeah, worship power.
Worship power. You will feel weak and afraid, and you will need ever more power over others to keep the fear at bay. Worship your intellect, being seen as smart. You will end up feeling stupid, a fraud, always on the verge of being found out, and so on. Look, the insidious thing about these forms of worship is not that they are evil or sinful, it is that they are unconscious. They are default settings. They are the kind of worship you just gradually slip into, day after day, getting more and more selective about what you see and how you measure value without ever being fully aware that that is what you are doing.
Yeah. They're not evil or sinful. It's not that they're evil or sinful. Evil.
And what does sinful mean?
A sin? Do you know what a sin is?
No.
A sin is like, in religion, you have like sins like murdering somebody is a sin. It's like a bad thing that you do. So it's not that they're like bad things that you do. A sin is just a bad thing, a bad action. Make
Okay.
sense?
Yes, sure.
Okay. And let's have Julieta just read this big paragraph so we can try to get through this.
Okay. And the word will not discourage you from operating on your default settings, because the word of man and money, power, hums along quite nicely on the fuel of fear and contempt and frustration and craving and the worship of self. Our own present culture has harnessed these forces in a way that have yielded extraordinary wealth and comfort and personal freedom. The freedom to be lords of our own teeny skull-sized kingdoms, alone at the center of all creation. This kind of
I love that
freedom
line.
has much to recommend it. But of course there are all different kinds of freedom, and the kind that is most precious you will not hear much talking about in the great outside world of winning and achieving and displaying. The really important kind of freedom involves attention and awareness and discipline and effort, and being able truly to care about other people and to sacrifice for them over and over in a myriad pretty like unsexy ways every day. Nice.
In myriad, petty, little, unsexy ways.
Myriad petty, little, and sexy ways every day.
Yeah. And so myriad, it can
A
be.
lot.
This is actually funny because it's a word that is used in. You could say in a myriad of, or you can just say in myriad. So you can use it as a noun or an adjective, which is kind of cool. It's a fun word. And people will argue about it, but you can look at the dictionary and tell them that you are right. So you could use it in those two ways: precious
Precious.
and tiny.
Tiny.
Yeah, and yielded.
Yielded.
And okay, let's have Akash. Can you read the next part?
This is real freedom. This is real freedom. The alternative is unconsciousness, the default setting, the rat race, the constant gnawing sense of having had and lost some infinite thing. I know that this stuff probably doesn't sound fun and breezy or grandly inspirational. What it is, so far as I can see, is the truth with a whole lot of rhetorical junk paired away.
Nice.
Obviously, you can think of it. Obviously, you can think of it whatever you wish, but please don't dismiss it as some finger-wagging Dr. Laura sermon. None of this is about morality, or religion, or dogma, or big fancy questions of life after death.
Good. Some infinite thing.
Some infinite.
Really nicely done. And Anna Carolina, can you finish?
Are you sure? The capital, all those things. The capital T truth is about life before death. It's about making it to 30 or maybe 50 without wanting to shoot yourself in the head. It's about simple awareness, awareness of what is so real and essential, so hiding in plain sight all around us, that we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over, this is water, this is water. It's unimaginably hard to do this, to stay conscious and alive day in and day out.
Woo.
Okay, what does myriad means?
Myriad is like a lot of. In many.
What?
In many.
In many? Okay, there is something more in Julietta's small paragraph. Let me see. Um, Another word, but I lost my track. Hums and one more. I've viewed it.
Something that hums along is just like it moves along nicely without a problem. So it's like the sound of an engine. And yielded is like gave up. That have like given up. So yeah, like to give up extraordinary wealth and comfort and personal freedom. Like they have yielded it. Gnawing is like chewing. I don't know where it is. So something that gnaws at you is like it's like a sense that always is there, and it's like always kind of biting at you that you can't get away. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, this is good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I like this speech a lot. You can listen to him say it online on YouTube. It's called This Is Water. And it's David Foster Wallace. And it's free most places, so you don't really need a link. Just look up This Is Water by David Foster Wallace. It's too philosophical. Aw. Well, I liked it. If you want to read it again, maybe you'll understand it more. But yeah, anyways, thanks for coming in. Hopefully you enjoyed class, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.